Shalom Israel, first want to start by giving all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Akakbadash, double honors unto the elders, apostles, and bishops, GMS, Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edify, Shalom. Unto you, hopefully, elect Akiman, Akwat, and his household of faith. Their name is Ishaya. Adawam Ratazak, going to make an edifying video going into the topic of, think about this sacrifice to the Lord. Throughout your day, every day that you live in His faith, you should be trying to glorify the Lord, pray to the Lord, you know, and have the Lord as your number one priority, the focal point of your decisions, right? When you start having the Lord in your mind on that level, you're going to start being more spiritual, right? Because you understand the spirit and the flesh, they war against each other. That's why you're going to have certain situations where, you feel like you feel all distraught or contrite in the spirit by a decision that you made in the flesh, because your spirit and your flesh are warring against each other. How your flesh is, putting these thoughts in your mind and doing this and doing that, whereas the spirit is, trying to do the things that which are good. Talking about that inward man. Let me pull up a precept on that real quick. So I'm going to do this for 2 Corinthians 4:16. And it says, "For we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." And if you read the 17th verse, it goes into our light affliction. It says, "Which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." So that inward man warring against the outward, that inward man is renewing day by day. The Lord will deal with you. If you're doing that which, the Lord is pleased by, He will deal with you. And he will sup with you, according to your portion, where you're at in the spirit at that moment. You know what I'm saying? But, just reinforce that point. Going back to the main topic is think about the Lord more throughout your day, right? And I'm actually going to grab, before I get that, I'm going to go to Hebrews 12:2. It says, "Looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith." You're looking unto the Lord, right? You have to think to yourself in a spiritual matter, bro. If you bros are, having a hard time, making better decisions or doing that or fighting against your flesh, man, we have a simple, arsenal of things that we can use to war against that. You got fasting, you got praying, you got meditation, spiritual meditation, thinking about the shit before you do it, But also, we look unto Yahweh Shai. So before, when you make decisions, man, pull this out from the arsenal. The Lord is watching you. Remember that. The eyes of the Lord are upon every man. He beholdeth both the good and the evil. The times that you win your battles, the Lord sees just as much as the times that you lose your battles. The Lord sees every battle. The Lord sees you trying. The Lord knows your heart. But, think about that. Have it in your mind and have it in your spirit. Wear that upon your conscious, so that you make better decisions and think in a wiser way. If you're thinking to yourself, like, man, should I smack this cheeseburger right now, or should I bullshit my whole rest of my day and just chill out? I'm already kind of vexed. Might as well just feed the flesh. You know what I'm saying? Think about the fact that Yahweh Shai is looking at you doing that. The Lord Yahweh Shai is seeing you do that. Think about like a father at his son's game, and his son, he knows his son is capable. He knows his son is able to, get past those mental blocks and play a good game, but his son's over here bullshitting, looking at shorties in the bleachers and shit, trying to pull gum off the bottom of his cleats, man, distracted. Think about how the father would feel when he knows that his son should be doing better, and his son has done better. He wants him to play that game. But do you think when the son was doing those things that he was thinking about the father? Thinking about his father watching him perform, display? Even for the fucking people that are around about him. We're ambassadors of the Lord Yahweh Shai. We come in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So when we come to, and do something like that, it's heavy, man. It's bigger than just you. We are representing the Lord here in His flesh through this ministry. All right? So that's why it's important to constantly think about the Lord when you're making decisions and he's on the forefront of your mind as you walk throughout your day. You know, it's hard to be spiritually minded and it's easy to be fleshly minded, to be carnal. But a carnal mind is enmity with the Most High, as the scriptures say. Think about that and hop in the spirit. What would Yahweh Shai do? Will Yahweh Shai, be distracted as I'm playing my game? Was the Lord distracted when he was here? No, the Lord was here in the flesh as Yahweh Shai, and he was here for, somewhere around 30 years, diligently teaching his word, going around to and fro, synagogues every day, doing his work, performing miracles, edifying, exhorting, coming back with the message, and that's the type of spirit we got to be on, man. Locked in, dialed in. The apostles are pushing that spirit, to be dialed in, to understand that, this faith is the whole purpose. A man, the script, not scripture, Salakia. Pretty sure there's a Marcus Aurelius quote, and it says like a man who's always idle lacks purpose or some shit like that. If you're in this faith, you shouldn't have too much idle time. Through the spirit, you're going to have, sometimes where you just, down, you enjoy whatever you enjoy. Brothers might like sipping tea. You might be with a lady, whatever it is, to each his own. That's neither here nor there. As long as it's, righteous and clean, of course. But that goes without being said. You should, we're in the stage of the game that you should be doing things, in the right spirit. But there's going to be a lot of times where you have leisure time, so-called leisure time. But the scriptures say in the Apocrypha that, basically the opportunity of leisure time is like for a learned man. Let me just get it. I kind of butchered it. Salakia Akim. Says, Sirach 38:24, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure. So when you got downtime, when you have time that your flesh would want to take over, because really when you have that free time, they like to say in the world, which really comes from the scriptures, is an idle mind is the devil's workshop. When you out here bullshitting. But if you're in the spirit and power, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, think about the sacrifice of the Lord. Think about, what the Lord had to endure to give us this opportunity. Think about it, man. The Lord came here in the flesh as that ultimate sacrifice, the Lamb. Right? So be more spiritually minded in the decisions that you make to understand that this is not just about you. You're serving the Lord. You love the Lord. You want to do this for the Lord. You don't want to live for yourself. You don't want to have fun here. You don't want to bullshit. You want to give everything that you got to the Lord in the time that we have. Like it says in Baruch. I believe it's the 4th chapter. My delicate ones have gone rough ways. Not knowing me, in the next verse, seek ye the Lord 10 times more. All right? That's the spirit right now. Seek the Lord 10 times more. The Lord broke that seal pursuing the Revelations, the 5th chapter. He's getting his praise in heaven right now. And we've been given the opportunity to understand, and know where we come from, our heritage. We understand the Lord again. These laws, statutes, and commandments, this way of righteousness is coming back upon the nation of Israel. And right now it's going to be the 144,000 that are going to be able to perform it. You 2/3 are going to be stiff-necked and blind for the rest of your lives. But, these laws, statutes, and commandments keep us from hurting, heartbreaking, all that shit, man. These keep us in doing the right thing, being in the right way, living the right life. Like that Deuteronomy 4:7 spirit, or what nation that had the Most High so close to them. We are that nation. But who is our high priest? Who is our great Lord? Who gave us that spirit? Through Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua. It's the Lord, bro. Think about that. And actually, I don't want to go into too many topics here. It's supposed to be a quick hit. But 1 Peter 1:18, it reads, for as much as now that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold, but your vain conversations received by tradition of your fathers, but the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. The blood of a Mashiach, man. This is bigger than us, man. So when you feeling down and out as a man and you feeling like you just bullshitting and not doing right, think about, look at yourself in the mirror. What are you doing this for? If you can't, if you cannot confidently say why, you follow this, why you love the Lord, You know, if you can't give those things, those simple things, even the Apostle Gabar says about this. Why are you in his faith? You got to be able to answer that question, man. You want to serve the Lord. You want to follow the Lord. You want to do that which you were always meant to do. You know, this faith and this you know, this truth should be like a nature to you. You should want to do better in this truth. You should feel that fire and that urge to do better. And there's gonna be some times in the flesh, you know, you're gonna feel fucked up, but you should really want that in the most sincere part of your spirit, in the whole part of your spirit, that you should want to be better in this truth, make better decisions, be a better man, teach this, you know, teach better, read better, pray better, fast better. And especially in the times that we're in right now, these are highly spiritual times. They're evil. So you got to stay, you know, keeping your medicine strong like the Apostle Ricard says, man. You know, we in this faith not to lose. We in this faith to Lord willing, be one of those elect men. You know, part of the 144,000 ruling class. The priests, kings, and judges that will rule under Yahweh Shai in the kingdom. You know, we don't do a vain labor here. We go through hard things, but the Lord will, you know, bring us out of these things and reward us, you know, according to our hand, according to our talents. You know, some bros, you know, just like the parable of the talents. You got some men that got, you know, 5 talents and turned it into 10. They doubled that which they were given. You know, we're giving this faith, we're giving this truth, we're giving this understanding, man. You know, use it, man. Use it, apply it to your life. Go hard with this, man. Exodus 13:2, it says, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever open the womb amongst the children of Israel. So, you know, that womb of the children of Israel. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, says both man and of beast, it is mine. You know, we are that nation that are of the Lord's, that nation above all people. We are given the Lord. The Lord, you know, didn't make that sacrifice for these other nations. These other nations are vain. They're counted, you know, as like a drop of water from a bucket. You know, or like it says in the Apocrypha, you know, and Esdras, as less than spit, you know, really chiefly that nation of Esau. A nation counted as less of spit. But we are that good nation, the elect of the Lord. All right? So, you know, you got the name of the Lord. All right? You even got bros that make images of what the Lord could possibly look like. You know, he's going to be so much more glorious than those, of course. But, hey, you know, this is something that we like to meditate upon. You know, the greatness of the Lord, constantly praising the Lord, giving all that we got for the Lord. Because after all, are you living for yourself? Absolutely not. You are living for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. This life that you live, you know, we devote our lives to the Lord. You know, this ain't no lukewarm business, man. We ain't no half Israelite, half worldly motherfuckers, bro. When you're making decisions, man, think about, you know, the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Is this expedient? Is this smart? Like, am I actually moving in the right spirit? Is my heart in the right place when I'm doing this? Is my heart in the right place? All right? There's a lot of wicked ass, evil spirits going around, bro. If you notice and catch one of them shits on you, rebuke it. Repent. You know, come back to the Lord with that sincere heart. Even David prayed to the Lord in Psalms the 51st chapter, talking about create me a new heart. You know? Reading up on the, you know, the tender mercies of David, man. Wickedness could creep up on any man, bro. Any man. The Apostle Gabar, just taking a quote from him, he says, if anybody in his flesh, including, you know, himself, can fall, you know, at any moment in time, the Lord could just take that spirit from you, like Saul. Look at Saul. He got that Holy Spirit, that Ruach HaKodesh, just stripped from him. All right? That can happen to you too, bro. You don't want to cause displeasure in the Lord, man. You want to just do your very best, you know, with all your might and all sincerity to do that which you will in the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Be a better man, not only for yourself, but for your family, for your dogs, for your cats and shit, you know. Even them are protected by your faith. And Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, he gives mercy upon your house. And not only that, the brothers that are standing next to you. You don't want to be that one bro at camp, you know, every time you go to a sit down, he's just like, man, Shane kicking my ass, man. Like, we get it, bro. We all getting our ass kicked right now. Every bro is getting their own portion of hell on the level in which the Lord sees fit. And the hell's been turned up. The hell's definitely been turned up. But guess what? It's only going to get hotter and hotter. That's going to show who the real men are around here. Who the men who truly love Yahweh Hashem Yahushua and stand stiffly for this. The men who are really about this. Alright? Think about it. Check yourself and take a second. Lord willing, that lesson was edifying. I want to lastly give all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushua, B'Hashem HaKakwadash. Shalom.